kitty cat. Kitty cat. Oh, hold on, I gotta set him up with bed. There you go. Alright. Is that good? Yeah. He's good. Why don't you even open SFM? I'm a little behind. I hit the button and then because the cat was distracting me. There we go. It's 4. 4 your time or 4 my time, or is that same time? It's like when I got off work. And why does suddenly my phone decides that it wants to use Twitch messaging? Yeah. So I'm gonna open this, but oh yeah, I should probably post stuff. You can do that. All right. I'm gonna like try not to forget that. Anyways, so stream. I did want to do the normal reminder that if there's anybody with any questions or wants to see something specific or an example of something, feel free, and I will do my best to assist and show you. Also, I found a couple new maps, actually, that I actually think are important enough to point out here. Or not maps, just workshop items. It's almost always at least second page. Yes. The first one being ocean sims, which are actually pretty neat because it simulates actual water. And I believe that they're made so that you can tile them, so you can put them next to each other. And they're on a 12-second, no, not 12 seconds, 120 frame loop. Yeah, 120 frame loop for 24 frames per second. So that's that'd be 5 seconds of animation. And it's vertex animated, so it's way more detailed. And I think I have it set up where you just grab the bone and you slide it. I haven't played with it yet, but it would be neat, and it's really nice having that ability. So anyways, and the other one was actually, they're both right here. Scene Build Huge Void, so or Fog Void. It's the same one that I normally use for a lot of my stuff, but for scene building, but it has a fog controller added in. And I actually think this is also important enough that I will show you what I mean. So we're going to close this and open a new one. They're on the workshop, the water textures and stuff. It's called Ocean Sims. It was like uploaded just a little bit before I checked yet. I think yesterday. Wasn't it? Yeah, just yesterday. I happened to be no, actually I think it might have been the day before. No, it was yesterday. So I think I was just up really late. But yeah, that's pretty neat. Anyways, this one. So I'm first going to show, and I haven't played with the Fog Void maps yet, so I'm just going to be doing a lot of guesses on this stuff. Okay, so this is the one map that I use the most, and The benefit to this map is that it is about the maximum size that you can put within SFM before your Z distance starts kicking in, which is about 30,000. And by Z distance, it's how far the engine will process anything. So when you get into this back corner, it starts turning black like this. That is because that point is about 30,000 away. I believe it's 30,000, meaning that it doesn't process anything past that point. So it's a ginormous space, and it has a big vertical range. So that's why I really like it. But the only downside is it doesn't have a skybox. But really, that can be almost detrimental because if you don't have walls, you don't know if you're actually within the valid area. The one thing I didn't like about this, though, is that it had no fog controller. And a fog controller is what it allows, like in a game, to have that, like, as things go further away, they seem to fade off into the distance. But you can do that with volumetric lights. Volumetric lights are very inefficient, and usually it's still a light. You're having to put something between you. Fog should be able to go and fade into a darkness. Using volumetric lights don't really allow you to fade things into dark. They are light. So let's give this a shot and see if it's supposed to be the same map. Come on. Oops. Let's see what it's called. Huge fog void. Yeah, you had to name it differently, didn't you? Okay. Oh, I probably know what your camera issue is. I can show you on this thing too. All right, so the fog works. So, this is. I don't think that they should have defaulted with such a high fog on, so this should be essentially the same map. I'm just double checking. Yep, same map with a fog controller added. The nice thing is there is a script you can download called Realistic Fog, and I believe it was actually made by Brony. He actually links to it here because I don't think it's required, but like he said, it's strongly recommended. It's so strongly recommended that he couldn't even spell it right, and it allows the modification of fog within a UI instead of having to go out into the game engine like this, and allows you to save the settings, which is also super useful. So let's see. I'm gonna turn this on. I know that these was weird and how this worked. I forgot what it was. There was something. Oh, I think mine's out of date. Anyways, oh wait, there it is. Okay, that's what it was. I have to click the engine and move the screen. That's okay. So you say set and then you can move it. All right, now I got it working. That's what the issue I had was. So, so you see here, like, this is obviously not what fog would look like, but you can set your distance, so you can be like, there's my 30,000. If we go close to 30,000, that's why I said you got that limit. Let's get a more realistic color. So we're gonna go like and do a kind of. That's a little dark. We'll go a little brighter. Yeah, so that's a nice fog, and it's a little far away, so let's strip this closer. There. And so if you put this super close, well, it's already set to 0. You can actually put it as a negative. It'll kind of cross over your area, but it does have some interesting properties with that. But so the cool thing is, though, we will load a model here. Let's go to the building. Let's just use this one. I'll show you why it's nice. Okay. So the building actually fades away correctly into the distance. So like here I have it actually fading away too strongly, so we're going to go and increase the ends point. We will pump that up and put it further away. So if you add that into the distance, you could actually have a nice disappearing fog look. If I put the start point more to negative, that can be closer. So pretty nifty. I don't like that color. It's kind of like throw up. There, that's more realistic fog. I've been waiting for something like this for a very long time, and oops, I broke the building. It's actually pretty nice that they have that. Anyways, I'm gonna get back to the other questions here. That was just more of an off-topic thing. The earlier issue regarding cameras, I know exactly what happened with that. More than likely, at some point, should I chat there? At some point, you probably had split clips. And what happens is when you actually look at, and it's the same with models or camera. If you go to the actual, like, what this, I wish I read the name of it. Is it this clip editor? Yeah, clip editor. If you double click this, you'll open up something that kind of shows the life of models. I haven't figured out what benefit it has to playing with this, but it seems to matter in some way because you can modify it in pretty easily. And so like right now, when I loaded these, it created them at having a starting at -5 and going till 65. If this shot were 10 seconds long and I created it, it would have been a lot less than that. But if I extended that clip, or I took this and I broke it into pieces and then I started moving things around, it might end up where, I'll just load up a camera here. So this camera has that life here. So if I drop its life down to here, or no, like, well, first, so if I go and, with this camera, I can move it around and it'll stay that way. But if I go and drop its life to below what range I'm in and I start going to play with it, let me actually do some motion with it here. You're going to notice when you're playing it, that motion isn't happening anymore. Because it's dead in that time, so it's not being paid attention to. If I move this into it, you'll suddenly see the motion is now kicked in, because we're now like giving it that. The way I've always seen it is it's the lifetime of that model. Since you can't break this into pieces, it's saying this is when it's birthed and this when it's dead. It still exists before and after boards, but none of the motion is active, and I haven't figured out what the benefit is to it yet. But so if you ever have a problem where your camera is not working, or a model when you go to move it isn't showing the motion, the two ways to fix it are to double click the clip, go in here, find that model and extend it with it to the range. You can exit by going back to the little return symbol here, or when you copy and paste a new model, it resets its life to whatever that shot is. That's why it fixed it when you did that. So so for instance, if my camera's life this small, and then I copy this and paste it, fixes it to the maximum amount again, to whatever the clip is. So if this clip is shorter, and I paste it, and now is only filling that amount of range. So that's what it was. It took me like a year and a half to figure out how to fix that without having to go a stupid workaround. So yeah, instilled knowledge. So yeah, but it's not just with camera. Anything has that. And I tested it a little bit to try to figure out, like, is it less resource intensive to drop that down where it's needed? I actually feel that it could be useful for, like, if you could break that into pieces. So if there's an pre-made animation for something, you could, like, if it's not a camera, just disable it during that time, but you don't want to delete it. But, you know, What other questions do we have here? Yeah, the Persona 4 is kind of reminded, the fog reminded me of. It kind of reminded me of The Mist. I think that was like a pretty bad horror movie. Is that a Stephen King one? I can't remember. But yeah. Do you have recommended camera sample uses for specific animations? I've kind of covered it a little bit before, but I think it's stuff like this is important, so I will kind of show it again. The main thing is, and I'm just going to cover general stuff because a lot of it comes down to artistic interpretation, what would work best for you. And Rainbow, and then I'm actually going to load up. We're going to go with the demo man. I want to. A lot of this is based on human, so it's at least the concepts. So I want to make sure that I have that represented. Okay. So if you go to top here, you might have other ones that pop up, like when you load in the enhanced models, it'll add like emotion and all these other ones. But under procedural, or not a procedural, sorry, next to procedural is lenses. It might be at the end. I think you can move these around. Yeah, I can. And these are presets based on cameras that you will see in the actual industry. And each of them is used for a specific thing. And what's nice about using ones that are used by the industry is that we are used to seeing that. So it's the same like when you have cinematic bars that come across the video, you have a feeling that is more cinematic or like theatrical, not because it is, or not because those black bars are some way our brains interpret it. It's because that's what we know as being theatrical. We say theatrical is the black bars, and so that's the way we see it. Same thing with the cameras. So I think it's supposed to be that on average, what it is considered to be the human perspective is of the world is 50 millimeters. So 50 millimeters is usually a pretty good go-to if you're not sure, because that makes it feel personal, because that's what you kind of feel in terms of perspective. Yeah, widescreen bars are similar. Or there's so many different names for that stuff. But anyways, so the three, I mean, there's a lot of these that you can go up to. You can go to 10.8, but why? And then the 90 degree. I think this one just makes it so, yeah, you can see a lot. That gets super distorting. But the three that I usually play with, other than very rare situations, are 35 to 85. What generally you would consider them as is 35 is very useful for a establishing shot, showing a large area without feeling distorted. So like here, a 35 would be a great way to show a large area. If you have a large group of people, you can probably use it as well, but a lot of times when you have a conversation between a couple people, you want to make it feel personal, and personal usually involves making it feel like you're there, and a 50 millimeter makes it feel like the human perspective. That's probably the preferred. So 35 is a lot, very useful for us, some of these establishing shots showing area. If you do have ponies in a shot or people in a shot, you probably want to show just about their whole body, because otherwise it's just going to be, you have to get pretty up close to not, and then that just feels wide, feels extra wide, almost too wide. But again, these are all recommendations. There's going to be situations that would call for something else. So that's all cinema works really. So 50 is going to be your general go-to, and usually works really well for a lot of mid shots. So like if somebody is talking, your mid shot, at least for the ponies, I consider to be about the middle of the leg. Don't cut it off to where it feels like they're a swan floating in the water or that they're a floating head. You want to cut it off at a midpoint, so either here or here. Well, there's really nothing on the head to do that with. So your mid shot's right about here, and then it's really bugging me there. Those eyes. There we go. Should be. Let's go with smile. There we go. But and then for a human, it's usually on the around the waist level. Like this would be a good mid, right around the middle of the stomach. If you're doing a little further back, you can don't come off at the knees, but like in the middle thighs, something. But usually this is a good mid shot. 85 is your good close up. So, and for a close up, I usually recommend right about mid body. And usually using rule of thirds, so that's why I'm having it. Where Rainbow Dash is there, looking into the shot. And then for a person, it's usually about their chest level. It's a good close up. Right there. Interesting. So, 105 can be useful, but sometimes depending on the shot, if you start getting zoomed in way too much, like this is maximum zoom, you can start having issues with some of the textures that are really close to each other. So I try not to go past 85 if I can help it. But really, that's in general a lot of the camera stuff is just your 35 for establishing, 50 for either general go-to or mid shots, and then 85 for close-ups. And I generally stick to that. The only time I won't is if I have if I'm playing with the zoom for depending on during a shot, it might go to some random number, but whatever. Beyond that, it's all situational for what you need for the camera. Like with moving shots, whatever, I could get into it forever as to some of the stuff, but it's all situational. Sometimes it just comes down to, you know, that somebody has to go from A to B. So you just throw something rough down and then just play with the camera and see what just feels and looks best. That's how I usually do it. I don't want to miss some of these other questions or getting back here. Do you have any tips on how to make a decent pony action sequence, like walking or sitting down? Look up references. And by action sequence, I mean, if you're talking about just walking or sitting, a lot of those resources already exist. So I would recommend using any that exist. If people put them out there free for use, you might as well use them. And if you have, but if you really need something that's unique in this to what you nobody else done before, look up a reference to see if a horse has done it before, and watch it in slow mo. Like pause at certain points, figure out what those key points are, and just build it based on what that looks like. Having the reference point is great. If there is no reference, find a human doing it and try to do your best. But you should always have a reference for something that's full body motion like that, especially ones that can be made into a sequence that you could use repeatedly. If you're talking like full action, like fighting scenes, I think the most important thing I've learned from stuff is give the action pause points, like where. Because if you keep things moving too fast, it just ends up being a blur. So it's like having points that things slow down for a minute so you can gauge reactions. I think that's one of the reasons anime does it, because there's so much going on at once and there's such a low frame rate for animation that having those points where everything kind of slows down and like the reaction phases are to give you that. So going back out of here. Wonder what the models do when SFM isn't being used. They're sleeping. See, Rainbow goes sleepy too. Just... Let's do this. Let's see if I can do this. Bang. Oh, I didn't do it. Yeah, it's sleepy. And they go floating into the distance because they can, because they're 3D models. Bye, Rainbow Dash. Bye, Rainbow Dash. What's I got? What do I plan for tonight? I have no idea. I'm just kind of fucking around and answering questions. Hello, Giz. Yeah, I have a couple of animation sets. I don't have any walking though. Well, I have like the kind of a goofy walk, but it's not really a realistic walk. It was a failed attempt at something else, and I just turned into a goofy walk. So I don't have any of that, but there's plenty of other ones out there. I like Takio Cinemas. I've been using that for a couple of years, but otherwise, if you can use animation from something else, use it. I have that whole pack of almost everything I've made before. Use it. I don't care if you copy paste from it to something that you need, even if it's just for a moment. If it helps, it helps. I don't care. Yeah, and in terms of like feeling that if you're using somebody else's work that feels like you're stealing, I've had a lot of people state that, and just to let you know, it's bogus. If people put it out there to use, the main thing is give credit when you can. So don't like don't go and say I fully animated this, whatever. If a lot of that what they gave is like if a lot of what is being done is walking and you use the walk cycle from somebody, credit them if you can. But the purpose of them being out there is that person usually had a need and they fulfilled it. Like me doing the Celestia walk cycle was because I needed a Celestia walking. So it was just ended up at I needed it for myself, but because I made it, I might as well let other people have access to it too. So so don't think that you're stealing that and that person never got a use out of it. But no, they're out there and they're usable for a reason. I think it's important for people to just be able to create, and they can save some time. Sure, go around, go do it. I don't care. Okay, sorry. Must be a question. By camera symbols, I meant using render settings. Where you like 64. Do I still have? I thought I got rid of it. Let me see. I don't think I have many more, but I actually had a conversation with somebody, and I did want to put out something that showed the comparison between all the different settings. But I don't remember if I kept them or not. I don't think I did. And if I didn't, that's fine. But nah. And for those that don't know, what he means is under your render settings here, you can force override to how many samples, and you can see in the corner here, it defaults to 8. So it's one of 8 samples. But if I jump this up to like 64 samples. In general, I recommend that never really go below 64. And don't really go above 256. And even then, that kind of depends. Like, if you have a shot that you're not using a high depth of field, it probably doesn't need to be that high. So, I recommend usually around 128. That's what I try to do, because you're going to get the best quality for the amount of time it takes to render. But 256, is it better? Yes. But it's like... I'm trying to find an analogy for it. It's like if you already have something that looks really, really good, and then you polish it a little more, are you really going to tell the difference between the two? Not really. If you were to give somebody a render that was at 128 or at 256, you told them to guess which it was, they're probably not going to be able to tell you the difference. So we rendered something at 1024 to see the difference for that. Is it better quality? Yes, for sure. But for video, it just moves too fast. It's not really worth it. You're not going to notice that difference. But it would help on pictures and stuff, but that's only a single frame, so who cares? Jump it to the max. But you don't want to have renders that take days and days and days to complete. No. Almost everything I've done has been at 128. On the rare occasion I go 256, but the only time I do 256 is because I know the render at 128 is only going to take like 3 hours, but I have 8 hours of render time before I get to my computer again. Well, then I'm just going to bump it up the quality because it's not going to affect my time at all. But that's the only time I really ever go to 256, is if the render I'm doing is small enough that the time I'm given is more than enough to bump it up. So yeah, I think that Does that cover everything? I'm not sure. I love having the fog controller. Oh, that's so nice. I don't know if I'm going to get used to swapping to this. Actually, this is the one thing I want to see now. Can I just straight up turn it off? Essentially. Okay, so if I put the numbers at max, yes, it's essentially the same map. But if you're not going to use the fog controller, there's no point in letting it process and run in the background. So, well, I don't think it's going to be a big performance hit. I probably would just say use the normal map. But if you need it, the nice thing is you could build it in this map, and if you decided that you needed a fog, you can swap to it really easily, which is actually really nice. So I'm not going to complain on that. I do want to, regarding the camera render settings, I do want to make something that shows a zoomed in, because like if you watch like on here, where's there you go? So let's oh, that's not even a camera. Alright, so I'm going to put a super high aperture on here so you can kind of see. Actually, I'm going to bump that up. I recommend you not override apertures if you need to, because you can get, like here you can even see that it's blurring just beyond that point. Anyways, so if I drop this render settings down to 8, you can actually start seeing the individual bits because they're not molding together. So that definitely not, I recommend not putting 8. If I go to 16, you can still see some of the lines, but it is blended a lot better. And then it just from there gets better. But if I go to 128, this is what the motion blur, or not the motion blur, the depth of field looks like. But if I go and up that to 1024. Give a sec. And it's done. Could you really tell the difference between those two? No. The only way I was ever able to tell the difference was I had to take a snippet of it out and compare them right next to each other zoomed in. That was the only way. So that's why I said you can even tell I have nothing in here but 3 models, and the amount of the render time on this is that. So done, or so start done. But the render time for doing 1024 is start done. Why? I just don't see the point of having that kind of time investment for something, and that's you go and add in enough other stuff. It's just going to add up to even more. And I've had an issue. It's not with motion or with depth of field, but with motion blur, where if I had, because on a camera you can modify its shutter speed, and a shutter speed is generally going to be 1 divided by double your frame rate. So if you're using a 30 frames per second video, your shutter speed should be 1 divided by 60, which is 0.016. In this case, this is, I think, based on 24 frames per second, so it's 1 divided by 48. Which is 0.0208, which is exactly what that is. So if you're using, I think if you create a 30 frames per second video, it should default that for you. It should modify that number to 0.0166. But for some strong action shots, I've dropped this to like 0.01, and if I put it, well, it makes things have less motion blur, but it can create a stutter because it's not as much blur between 2 points. But I had it where I put it at a render quality of 256, and the motion blur wouldn't render at all. but when I dropped it to 128, it would. So like I was making it think too hard for that shutter speed or something. If I dropped the shutter speed, it would work fine, but with what was going on, it literally couldn't do it at 256. So you might have that issue with a shot that's too complicated that you can't even run it at 1024. I don't know. I'm gonna change that because that's gonna be really annoying. So yeah, okay. I went on a lot of tangents there, but I think it's useful tangents. So, was there any other questions that people want me to answer, or things that they wanted to see or do or whatever? Oh, this is the other thing too. If you look at your focal point, so this focal point is right in the middle of her eye there. If you look where the focus actually is, it's actually right here. So it's not even on the point. This is like an insanely high aperture, but I've learned that if you are playing with super high apertures, usually above 10, so you are overriding, put your focus point past your focus, what you need. Because that's going to be what's in focus. As to why it does that, I don't know if that point of focus is incorrectly placed or not, but if you're unsure or you're playing with high apertures, keep it behind the subjects, where that plane is. So keep the plane behind whatever it is, because if you go and or say that I want it to be that her nose is in focus, but you're like, oh, this is close enough. No, it's not. So just go a little instead. Just go a little past, and that'll be what's in focus. Mist from Black Mesa particles to work. I don't know. Did I have Black Mesa? I think I did. I swear I did. And some of the particles, like, they might work in the preview screen, but there's some kind of a connection to something else that doesn't. I'll get to your motion blur thing in a sec. That like it might be linked to needing to be on a model or within a certain environment, or some property that the map is giving it. I've seen that before. So sometimes it may just not work because of that, and you might have to putz with it. I swore I had... Yeah, I do have Black Mesa. Particles. Is it just called Mist? Do you know what the particle is called? If you can double check that, I'll get back to you in a sec. In terms of the shutter speed, so a shutter speed is how fast the shutter would normally be going click, 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 click. So if you have a low frame rate, meaning less frames, if by having a slower shutter speed, it gives more blurs in between those frames, because you're going to be so you don't want to have a stuttering feel. So the blur helps connect those elements. So a low frame rate usually would be more blur to connect the longer distance between frames. But if the shutter's going faster, it's not picking, because when it's open, say it opens and you're... Oh, actually I do. I'm here. Why am I doing my hands? So say your subject's here, and this is... Shutter speed is still a normal camera, like an actual physical camera, but they still use that they try to calculate a simulation of it on here. So like this, the shutter opens now, but the subject had moved while that shutter is open from this point to this point. Well, that means that it's collected light across that, so it creates a blur. That's where you get that blur effect from. But if the shutter's open for less time, instead of going from here to here, maybe it's only went from here to here. Well, then you're getting a lot less blur, and that but then it has to be hitting the shutter has to go more often to make up for it. So if you have a really low shutter speed, you're going to have your subject go from here to here, but then by the time it opens again, your subject might be here again. So you get this gap between these 2 points where it moved but didn't pick up anything. So that's why you usually can get a little bit of a stutter. So while for action it can create a sharper look from the motion because the motion blur is not there, you're going to have this feeling of things aren't going to be as connected. So sometimes that might be what you're going for. Ponies kind of have that feeling of animation to them. Or like a 2D feeling, because 2D and anime has that. They don't have motion blur, and they have a low frame rate, so there can be bigger jumps between, and so they can kind of get a nice feel for that, which is nice. But it just depends on what you need. But generally, the rule of thumb is if whatever your shutter speed is should be 1 divided by double your frame rate. So if you have a frame rate of 60, your shutter speed is 1 divided by 120, and that will usually give you the number that you need. So yeah. SFM doesn't really handle anything much below, I think, 0.008. Anything below that, no matter what you do, it doesn't show motion blur. So, just a heads up. I think it's either that or 0.01. I can't remember the exact number. Is it possible to get ponies to stand on their hind legs without breaking their chest and bones? Kind of. Actually, well, you can only really do it with the enhanced models, but in general, no. They're not made to do that. It's like saying, could you take the TF2 characters and have them stand on the ground like a pony? No, they're not. Their bodies aren't built for it. They're probably going to look awkward. Would they have the functionality to it, or could they? No, they couldn't, because the more flexible you make the model, it just be starting to look really awkward. It's all just overall. But the enhanced models have this extra stuff, and mine are organized differently, but they have a couple bones in here. And one of them is the T-pose smoother, which is nice. So I'm just gonna just do a rough T-pose. So this is not really gonna be anything that would be I call home about. And so what the purpose of it is it moves some of the bones around to make it look better. So if you go and turn that up, and I don't even know if it's exactly the positioning that he is built for. So it looks like this is built so where I can have. Is it for the? I remember how everything works with this one, but I know that in general, for what you would normally expect from a T-pose, this does it does help. Yeah, because I know, like back here, it fixes up the butt a little bit. I can't remember what else it did, but I know the neck bit was helpful. Oh, that's what it was. So if you bring it up forward like this. Now it looks fairly straight instead of like this, where you got this like chest gap. There's also a lay smoother, which is pretty nice. That smooths some of the other body parts to make it work easier for laying down. The one actually I like is the back leg smoother. It's pretty useful for like strong legs stretched out so that they'll look straighter instead of bent weird. So I'm just going to go top to bottom here. Okay, Cryon Formus. Let's try opening that up. I don't see a cryo. What? That might be the name of the particle, but is it in a specific file, or is that that wouldn't be the name of a file? That sounds like something in something, because I'd need the name of the actual file you open to get to that. It's floor mist. What would that be in? Sounds like an environment. Cryoformist. So this, I'm guessing this one, Cryoformist. large 11. Okay, maybe not this one. Ah! Alright, well, we're going to open this in the editor, though. Okay, we'll see what this one is. Alright, that's the other one. Okay, I'm not seeing 11. Yeah. Not gonna say, if you're not using it, I can see that. Well, I'm guessing that whatever you're playing with is essentially the mist, like this is. So let's see if there's anything weird about it. Oh, here's a nifty little thing. So, this only works on this current instance of SFM, but if you don't like how small this window is, and you're like, why can't I make it bigger? You can, actually. If you hit F11, go to the game screen here, hit escape. You're in your normal TF2 options, video. We're gonna go and I don't want 1920 because that's my full screen. I'm gonna go to 1900 by 9 or 1600 by 900. Apply. It's gonna think for a second because it's increasing the preview window. Ignore whatever the hell that was. So now I have that increased. So I'm just gonna hit F11 again. Exit out. Now when I go to my particle editor, oh look at that, it's bigger. So if you're looking to have a bigger window for working with particles, that is a way to do it. The one downside to it though is if you if you do that and you quit SFM and come back in, you have to change that again. I don't know if there's a way to like permanently set that value, but even then, I don't know if it's worth it. So so what do we got here? We'll look at, this is large 1. Maybe that might have been what you were talking about. Everything on here looks like it would... I don't know about the collision bit. That probably isn't needed. But everything should work fine. Well, I know when you first spawn it, for you have to make sure that you exit your shot and then come back for any particle to actually show up. They won't work otherwise. So in this case, it does work. But if I would have loaded that up and then... So yeah, you can actually see it there without the lights on. Oh, that's the... Ha! Fog still makes the light show up, the wall show up. So this works. It's actually a pretty good fog effect. Kind of flickers though. I think it just needs to have a fade added. So I don't know what you might have been doing differently on it, but I know the main things are make sure that you exit your shot and come back in. Otherwise, when you first load a particle, so let's load it again. I'll load a different one just to make sure I'm not like sitting in RAM or something. You'll see nothing. Like no matter what you do, there's nothing. You have to like, I don't know if it's resetting or something, but you have to exit and come back, and then there, look at now it's showing up again now. So yeah, make sure that that's the case. I thought there was another situation that it might not show up. Oh, sometimes it might be just really like pure. You can't really see it because it's so of the lighting in the map. That's why I shut the lights off, because I was pretty sure that they would have had lighting disabled, and they do. Oh, so, let me try that one then. C1A2X particles. sewer door. I don't see sewer door water flood. So I'm not sure on that one. What was the other question here? What would a pony look like if they were waiting at a wall? What do you mean waiting at a wall? You mean like sitting there, like patiently? Because that just comes down to preference, like, or situation. I really wouldn't be able to tell you the best way to go around that. That's a little specific. If they're just waiting, I would just make them sit, personally. Well, you might have said 11 because when I loaded it up, it actually put a 1 at the end. That might have been the same one then. Oh, well, it should show everything there. Still not seeing it though. I'm just checking to see in case it has a secondary. But if you're like electricity, like this one too, if you ever play around with that, and I'm not saying that this one is, does it always look the same when you use it in SFM? I've had it not pop up this and look that good. Yeah, but I'm still not seeing what you mean. Unless your file's different than mine. At least that I can do it something else here. Actually, now that I have motion, I can show the motion blur works a little bit. So let's see here. We have on this camera. So this one is showing 0.016 because I had defaulted this to 30 frames per second when I started. So that's 1 divided by 60, so 30 times 2. And 0.1667. So that's what that averaged out to. But if I drop this number to like 0.01, it's going to be a lot clearer. And if I do it to like 0.07, actually that's a lot. Oh, this is like super quick though. It's like 0.2. Can I even do that? It's looking the same. There's got to be something. Oh, let me check one thing. I've had it before where I went to do that and then I realized that when there was being overridden in the layoffs. Yep, okay. This was saying a setting from the previous video I brought this over from. So you can actually override the shutter speed here. So this is overridden to 0.012. I don't want that. So I'm going to turn off the override. Okay, that was interesting. So this is super, super slow. So it's saying this to keep this shutter open for 0.2 seconds. So 0.2 is from here to here essentially. So it's a huge time distance. If there's not much going on, like around here, it'll still look at least fairly clear. But if there's a lot going on, you're just going to get a big mess of like blur. So you don't want that. But if it goes to 0.008, if it lets me go that low. Yep, it does. You're going to get very, very little motion blur. And if I go up to the 0.01, 0.0167 is going to be more. But this is to help blend between this shot and this shot better. So this is what the final would look like then. So yeah, this shutter speed can actually be a lot of fun, because I saw somebody that did a run animation, I think, with Scout, and they had it where the shutter was, I don't remember what the shutter was at, but it was some insane value, and he was just running, and it ended up being just this big blur of stuff. It's like here. Oh, is there no motion blur? Yeah, there's a little bit, but not much. But like, I put this to, can I do one? Oh, that's why it's not gonna do it, because I'm locked to the shot, so. This is per camera. Durr. Yeah, they get weird. But here you can actually start seeing the different layers of the motion blur. Because I'm at 32, but if you go to 8.8, you can actually see like the 8 different layers. So yeah, if you ever do make a save file or for something, and you say you created it at 24 frames per second, and then you convert it to a different frame rate, so you want to go from 24 to 30, do know that the shutter speeds do not change with it unless you do the override. So yeah. Yeah, if something is constantly moving, it can make difficulties. That's what I kind of mentioned earlier. If you're doing motion action, you have to have a point in which things kind of stop, or having a point of focus to something. So like if the camera was spinning around like right here, like this, I mean, not with the shaky cam from using a mouse to do it, but to where her face was in the same spot and everything else was changing around. Everything around her blurred from the motion blur a little bit, and it's not severe, but if her face was, or if the shot was like this, of her going across, her face would actually get blurred a little bit, because it is technically moving across the screen like that, and you don't want that, because your eyes are able to keep up with it, but now it sees it blurred. So I've had a couple issues with that before in the past, but if you do it like this, normally there's not much motion blur, because that point of focus isn't moving, and since it's your face, that's what you're generally going to look at, and no worries. I thought I've actually used that a couple times in this video. Like here, that was kind of the point too, is keeping it focused on him. Here I didn't care, that's not what the point of it was. I swear I used it in this one. Well, all these spins were done like that too, keeping his head in the focus. Let's see what comes. Okay, the file you're in is different than the one you said it was. That's why. So that is in the C1A1X effects, not C1A2X particles. And sewer door water flood. It's this one. Nope, I'm in the wrong shot. Alright, so I'm seeing it right now. If you have heavy volumetrics, things like this might not actually show up, depending on what might be in front of it. Volumetrics sometimes can hide particles that have transparency. Cat keeps looking at me every time I sneeze. There it is. Thank you. I don't know why I suddenly have a something allergic or something. I can't split that like the other one. Bless your face. Thank you. Thank you. It's why stop at just the nose? Just bless the whole face. There's nothing I noticed weird on this run. The only thing I can think of is, what is the child doing? Alright, from what I can tell, the child is probably doing more to the effect than the main one is. Okay, so the child is creating the steam look, while the main one is creating the water look. So let's say to put it back. But then if that was the case, then if you're having both particles are doing something that big, it wouldn't be a case of one particle not showing. If the picture you're missing, it would be purple. Ensure that the particle's nearby. Sometimes if it lows by the camera, but you don't know where that is. Other than that, there doesn't seem to be anything on this that I would say that would cause the particle to not behave. This is actually very standard particle. There's nothing really awkward about it. Other than it's red. I get pink. It's spray blood. Spray blood. I don't know what color blood. I don't even know anymore. Let's do that. That's good enough. It's blood spray. Yes. Bring me the blood. Yes. Blood. Actually, it looks pretty legit. Blood everywhere. Blood. Oh, that's weird. That stopped for a second. So yeah, I'm not sure the specific situation that might be causing yours to misbehave at all. Yes, you have helped me make blood, and we can make this different if you want. We can like. Here. There, it's like poop. Watch out. Which is orange poop. That's red poop. That's probably not good poop at all. Oh, it's fine. So yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to help you specifically without knowing more, but but some particles just are stupid. Like you load it in and they just don't work, but then like at other times they had, and like particles confuse me. We actually have it where we play Catan. We have usually the expanded ones we're always playing with, and one of them is the brown that you can play with. And every time we play, I always want to be brown because it's Poop Town, and I have to play as Poop Town. But then like we were, me and another friend were playing as a team, so we were the Poo Nation, and we ended up just sitting in a corner the entire game, like not able to get anywhere. Got a couple of lucky streaks, ended up pulling out a win out of nowhere. Poo Nation. So yeah. Get rid of this because I don't need that. Where is my Lyra? Oh yeah, I haven't done anything with that shot. So this one's a little bit more of a worry for the motion blur, but no, it doesn't look like it'd be that bad. But because you can kind of see that the head is moving, but it's mainly in the center of the camera and just getting closer. So in terms of actual movement, the background has a lot of motion, but he doesn't, so he should be fine. This shot has a little bit more of a worry because Lyra is moving a bit more, but from what I can tell here, when the motion blur kicks in, sorry. It looks fine. So here it might be a little bit of an issue. You can just tell, like here, I can see there's a little bit of a blur on her lip there, but that might be because she's talking. Yes, oh hell, Utopia, poop down. So I'm kind of I'm trying to decide if I want to do it where every time they swap, things build up. But if I do a build up, I would have to figure out the end point first. So like right now, when it goes to swap to this is what it looks like. So if I were to do a build up, it would be like, how do you build up from that? These are the two that I think I need to really have nailed down. I think what actually would work is having I don't know why, but this is just kind of like he's looking longingly at the Lyra. Let's keep that. just looking at the Lyra, and it's like it's just gorgeous, gorgeous, and it's just like pretty pony. Gorgeous. Well, that's her tongue, so I have to get back in there. There we go. Oh yeah. Oh, the Oblivion video. I just was fucking around. That was before Brony, man. What do you expect? I mean, that was, I think, was that recorded on PC? No, I had a video capture device I was using because I had done Halo photography stuff. And originally I was doing it from a video capture until I started using a hacked box and taking it straight directly from the box. I'm bored. I'm just like fucking around. So I'm thinking what to have them do is have them do like a racing at each other, which would require so like on this one, have them doing there would be no background for the shot. This one's usually gonna probably be a 50. Be like this. It's funny, the centered viewing angle is derped. So to make sure not to look at the camera. It's a little closer than I want. That's good. It has the other eye involved there, so that helps it break it up a little bit. No, YouTube has a lot of older stuff on there in terms of like stuff I used to do. I was playing around with modding Gmod, or not modding, using a scripting language to make it so that you could fly a plane using WASP controls, but it wasn't just about like forward, hit to go forward, hit to go backwards. It was actually like allowing acceleration and air checking and allowing so that when you hit like A or D to swing to the sides, it wasn't an instant change. It would actually like work its way into it. So there was actually a lot of math in there. I built some stuff in Minecraft. It was all stuff from Ace Online when I was doing all that stuff way back. Okay, these are named here so I'm not getting confused. Towel. Battle. 5. Lyra 6. I'm not naming them based on like Lyra 1, Lyra 2, Lyra 3 because I want to know which one is in what order. Battle. Crackle 7. Battle. Yeah, I like SFM's UI for that. It keeps it specific to what you need, and that's it. I wonder if I should almost utilize a more of a fisheye look. I do. I probably need to shrink his head down. Oh, it doesn't work that way for him. Damn. No, I don't want to change him too much because then it's just he just. I mean, if I put his neck down like this, it's not really Crackle anymore. It's just more of a normal dragon. Well, normal as that can be, I guess, but whatever. He's Happy Dragon. So I want to keep it fairly normal. What do we do now? Now, normally for action, you would put like person going into the shot, but for this, I'm actually going to use, I think, them towards the right side because it'll fit more for my need. I don't want to show them actually hitting each other, so I don't want to show them where they're going because they'll counterintuitive. So I probably want to have flappy flaps. I just guessed a shot. I got it right. That's good. So I have that disabled, but if I remember right, even though I just said disabled, it won't show up in render, but it will show up in previews. I don't think the engine is built for that very well. I'm just throwing something out here so I have light on him without something in the background. That'll work for now. So I need to show him like doing fast things. tube. That's what I'm looking for. It needs to go that faster. It would be 6 times as fast. No, that wasn't 6 times as fast. I need another 0. And so that'd be 6 times 8 is math. 48. My brain is not working right now. That's 48. I'm gonna say it is anyway. Oh, okay, yeah, I can't have the 6 times as fast, so I need the lengths to be decreased by about that amount. Might be a bit too fast. If anything, I can probably put 2 of these, one faster, one slower. It might be a bit too fast. I think it's just going to be a straight zoom in. Because I want to have a drastic bit. I wonder if having it like that, lighting and everything is not done yet, so I understand it's not gonna. Okay, if I'm gonna do that, I have to start low. What I'm working on? I'm working on something immensely stupid because why not? 5 Nights at Crackles. I don't think anybody would want 1 Nights at Crackles. Super crack. Yeah, actually, I called. Wait, I thought I called something that super crack. I can't remember anymore. The plaid. That would actually be a funny reference, but it might be. Actually, the funny thing is that the way I wanted to end this was with the Star Wars reference, and I'm thinking about using it directly from the show, but I haven't decided. Quite yet. Yeah, because I essentially wanted to cut it in at about this point for this part of the movie.
You're needed on the bridge, sir. Knock on my door. Knock next time. Yes, sir. Did you see anything? No, sir. I didn't see you playing with your dolls again. Good!
That's essentially what it... Not sorry. Spaceballs. But, that's originally what I wanted to do, is that the reason I was, yeah, we were actually going to watch it the other night. We ended up watching something else. Because it was something outrageous, and it was between two entities that made no sense to be at each other. So, that's why I thought having them, I was going to have them look like they were going to clash, and then have it instead be toys, and the other one just goes bam into the other one, like toys do, just for fun. So, but then I thought about, yeah, just grabbing that, because I just love the...
Lord Helmet, what? You need to knock on my door! Knock next time! Yes, sir. Did you see anything? No, sir. I didn't see you playing with your dolls again. Good!
I think my favorite part is this freaking lamp. You could just, like, I think they added the sound just for here go chick chick chick. This super expensive ship is so unstable that a door slamming shakes that much. Yeah, that movie is timeless, though. That's what we were gonna watch that the other weekend, but we ended up watching Monty Python: The Holy Grail, which to me is almost more timeless. So that movie will never be old. So I think, should I have it be, because like Crackle's head is too far up. That's the issue, because it would be great if I could do it right about here, because I get the whole body and the head there, but that would lead to some like disturbingness. I don't want that, and that also defeats what Crackle is. Did I break his jaw? No, it's just black. It was funny because we were watching Holy Grail. Some people hadn't seen it before, and with the fact that every time they changed scenes, somebody was like, "Ooh, I love this one," and it was just like every one of them was just a amazing skit followed by after another. It was so good. Well, maybe instead of being like there, I can be like here. Is the camera turn? Camera's turned, so I just need to have him turned a bit more. Where's my main bone? There it is. Okay, this is where a fisheye could actually be useful. But I don't want to, I want to have it be like a flat line of stuff. So I don't want to have the cone going like that if I can help it. So like, this could work. Or actually, you know what? I know what'll work. So you just gotta putz with stuff until you just it hits you. And then Lyra would be essentially the same thing. This is planning, that's why I haven't changed yours to red at all. So it's like I'm still trying to figure out 100% what I want to kind of, or at least not even 100%, but just like what I want to say for the most part is the direction I want to go in. And I'm just going to take these same lights. They're standing right next to each other, I believe. I kind of want to. I don't want to really show their legs on the ground because if I do that, that implies they're floating. So, well, I guess I kind of. Well, he's flying, so that makes sense. I could imply a jump. Like. Usually a flying punch is going to look a little weird, but why not? Hooves don't work that great for that. Oh, that's going to look stupid. wonder if I can have her running. No, because running would be a lot of motion that would probably destroy it a little bit. I would think it's like the best idea is to make it look like she had jumped. But that's going to take some time to get right. And so I'm just going to throw something out there just because. We'll keep it maybe like this. Tails are hard to go backwards with. Sometimes it's easier to just turn them upside down. I still think an upside down tail is going to help me here. I'm thinking if I straighten this and then just play with this positioning, I can hide it. Really rough, just something so I get the idea down. How long does it take for this one? About 6 frames before it's fully done. I want to keep the timing the same. So, and I'll do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. What did my zoom get down to? Field of view was right there. I didn't really. Wait, did the field of view end there? Did I not animate field of view? I did not. So this is one of those situations where it actually works out better. I thought I had done something with that. I've never actually had a situation where anything below 35 was really viable, but this one actually has proved me wrong. And so when he comes up, comes to about the midpoint, so I'll have Lyra 2. Okay, Lyra is not far enough away. I think that'd be close. You can see almost down the tunnel on this one, but not on this one. So we'll do it like this. Okay. And this stops just essentially zooming straight into them, letting the camera spin around them. Just like this. Too fast. I think I gotta do less sideways stuff. It's still too much. As he has a flat line, I can just drop. Okay. I think the main issue is Crackle passed the midpoint here, Lyra does not. So I have to just move Lyra closer, I think, from the initial. I'll get your thing in a sec. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff later. Which reminds us of the M40 class. Seriously, late if you're wondering if 3-point lighting would work effectively as it does in real life. I really assume it's since lighting and I assume it's artificial. Well, essentially, I do the same thing. Because, I mean, 3-point lighting is just about ensuring that everything is lit. The fill light is what I use as my ambient. It's just like, it's the filler. I'm just not using correct terminology, but I really don't care. The key light is your main form of light. Normally, that'll be my main light, but it will also be... I usually combine that with a rim that creates a nice sharper edge because it creates a more of a cartoonish look. And the backlight is what I call highlight. So that's generally, yeah, I do about the same thing. It's just usually my key light I split into two for my main and my rim. But yeah, it'll work in SFM for sure. But it also depends on the situation. If it's light outside compared to it being nighttime, just a little different. But yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, you picked a strange video to work on, but yeah, it's a trying to think of example. Hello, Kel-chan. Well, and generally, everything I do is with 4 lights. So I mean, it's not that much different, but like here, for Lyra, it is if you remove the eye light, it is 3 lights. So you have your Actually, this is going to be probably very similar to your picture, the picture there, for how the lighting is done. I can't keep that there because it'll just disappear. But in terms of your backlight, the backlight is is the one that's coming across the back here. So this is my highlight. That's essentially what this one is. It's coming around the backside. And then the rim light is essentially what I would, or my main light. So let's split the two, like I said, would be, in this case, I'm coming around from this side, but is serving the purpose of this one, the key light, in that it's providing the direction that the main source of lighting has come from. So if you were to look at the model, you could immediately know. If you were to say what direction is the light coming from, you could say from the right. That's what that light is telling. I usually want to have one direction that makes it feel like light's coming from. If it doesn't feel like it's coming from any direction, it should be coming from directly in front of or directly behind, because then, like, if you're starting behind, I would have even rim around the sides. But because it was darker here, I wanted to have a more shadowy face. And then my I think my main shadow is just the one I'm using kind of as the general light. Yeah, just to fill the gaps. So here's the highlight, this would be your backlight, and then your I don't know which one should off here. That'd be the key light, and then the fill light. So yeah, it's essentially the same thing. It's just, it's not as yeah. Oh yeah, you know you can do that. Yeah. Should I say? But yeah, it's essentially the same thing. All lighting, I think, works that way. In some way or another. But no, all lights you can have. So like this one here. If you do an amp light frustrum, that's what this is. You can see that box, and then you can do its min, so you can actually see where its minimum distance is, its maximum distance. So you can actually see when things enter that box as to when they start getting hit by light. If you turn on Uber Light, it'll add in all the other controls to it, so you can see where your cut on, which is down here, where your cut off is. That blue range is your far edge that shows where your fade range is for it. Inside the circles themselves, you can see that when you change height and width, you can actually see the full circle go up and down. But if you change edge width, you can actually see just the outside, because that's your fade range. So yeah, in that I had the lighting tutorial that actually covers how to use those, because it does. Sometimes it's hard to like try to figure out, like, I'm playing with the light and the min and the max are right around this range, but where is it actually hitting? It does come in handy to be able to utilize that, or to try to maximize its usage range, because like shadows are going to be sharper if you try to keep it focused on just what you need it to be showing. So I use this sometimes to just make sure that I'm hitting it just within the ranges that I need. So yeah, but you have to be careful, because if you leave those on, they render. So you have to, if they're on, you're kind of screwed. Well, there are situations where like multiple lights, like 5 might be useful. 3 is, it's again one of those cinema things where as long as you have some group of lights that are fulfilling these roles is what this basically staying. So like I said, my key light usually it's taken up with 2 lights, but that's because I'm trying to go for a cartoonish look. If I just go and light a model like a normal person, it may not give the effect that I want. But if I do really, really, really sharp rims, it actually, the way I interpret it is it creates kind of a cartoonish feel to it by giving it all outlines, and I really like that for the pony models. But as long as you have something that is creating your main source of light, something that is showing the light coming, like, or giving it depth on its opposite side, so that it's not just blending back into this background, which is what your backlight would be, and then your fill light is just filling in the gap between the two. But that can be with 3 lights, it can be with 8 lights, 12 lights, whatever you need. But in general, it should be at least 3. And I really can't think of a situation where I would light something with less than 3, unless the map has pre-made lighting that would negate the need for a fill light. That would be it. But even if it's a super bright scene, I usually still put at least these two to try to give it depth. Otherwise, it's your model is lit evenly with everything around it, and that's not really. This doesn't feel right. It just feels like a game. Well, it feels like you're just watching TF2. So that's not, no. I don't know if I covered how to turn on the full stream in there, but I did turn it on in there to show it. I think I just talked about it, but it was towards the end, I believe. I can't remember. That was a long time ago. But also, Warhorse, when it comes to showing like some of the stuff, a lot of the stuff that I know, I just know from putzing. It's not. I wasn't like taking classes with people that have done it before professionally. So if they're saying something, they probably know more than I do. So, it's just I never look. That's why I'm not using the correct terminology for some of the stuff and how I do it, because it's just from playing in SFM that I learned that these things work, and there's a reason that other people use them too. So. Dancing poem. Yeah, lighting does take a while. Actually, that's one of my favorite things to do, though, is the lighting and the setting up of stuff. So I don't mind, because like here, if I were to use, well, the default map lighting would be like this. So if I were to use that and try to still maintain a dark scene, it would look like this, which everything kind of blends. She doesn't feel like she's being pulled away. But if I go and turn on everything, now she has full depth. By looking at the picture, you can it feels more immersive, and that's what I try to go for it. Yeah, I know it is very, very different than real life. Well, it's very different in real life in good and bad ways. Like you could say that in real life you're able to utilize a lot of the different aspects of like lighting way easier, like having light that refracts around objects or reflects within a room, your volumetrics, and or like the fog effect. It could be better done in real life. But the fact that I can create a light from nothing and point it and control it in very minor aspects is pretty nice. So I won't complain on that. Just make sure I didn't miss anything else here. No. Okay. I think there's anything else, or like so like here in terms of the lighting, this one I think actually it probably would have been a better example. So if you, so this one actually has the main three. Well, this one doesn't have any fill light because, like I said, the map's lighting here actually covers it. But so my key light has two different lights. So if I use just this one and then my highlight from behind, this is what it would look like. But does the lighting work? Yes. But by adding this extra rim, it just creates, to me, more of a cartoonish feel. It fits the style of the models more. And so I like doing that. So I have the general light that's kind of just showing that direction, and then usually the rim and the highlight, or in this case, the key and the backlight, would be very similar in how they just on opposite sides. And then this one is the main one that I'm using. It's just to show to give more emphasis to one side to imply what direction the light's coming from. Not sure if I like that light now. Is this matching? Not really, but I'm gonna worry about that in post. Did I finish Derpy? Yeah, I did Derpy. I'm gonna have to render that different because your mouth's gonna spend time just getting into a flex position. Oh, for those, because I know there's newer people. Yeah, this is what I'm working on. Something really, really stupid. It's so stupid. I love it. It's Crackle. It's Crackle. See, he's a very loving dragon. See, that's the face that shows he cares. It's the face of love. It's love, love, love. Now we should see what to think of that. Yes, I am the empty god. Actually, when I say empty god, that doesn't sound very pleasant. I'm the god of. Oh, I have empty because I'm redhead. That means no soul. This is the only one I don't have anything for. So what? Okay, so for the light red one, I have that one. So I go from bottom, or from front to bottom, and side to front to back, or front to side. So what would be a third one? So he goes, zooms in, and then bottom. Will zoom in work? See, the problem is this is probably going to be doing too much of the face. Like I said before, like I need to keep the central point of focus unchanged as much as possible. No, that's too much like the other one. And this one's already to the side, so I can't do something like that again. And a lot of these are going from... They're maintaining a... What would they call that? A counterclockwise rotation. So this is spinning counterclockwise around him. Very similar to that, and then that, and there on that one too. So they're all constantly going in the same direction. Because of that, I mean, this is okay having it be a little different because of how those are set up. But I think that means that I have to try to maintain that. I don't want to have one of these suddenly break the mold and such. Meaning that if I'm going to maintain that direction, I have to start from closer in the front. And I can't break the 180 rule. So I can't... And the 180 rule stating that... Oh, good. Cardinal's here. There's an invisible line created between these two. And if they're having a conversation, or in this case, they're fighting back and forth, I cannot cross that line with the camera at any time. So I can have a conversation go to here, and I can have it go to here. But I cannot cross it into this side. Because at that point... it's like saying if you were having a conversation with somebody, you're on one side of the conversation, and that's the way you perceive it. You may, if the camera swaps between here and here, no matter what, you still feel like you're in the conversation, you're a part of it because you are on that side. But if suddenly it goes from this shot to this shot, and you start swapping sides like that, it starts to become like a motion that you wouldn't be able to do yourself. So it suddenly breaks immersion a little bit, and it can start getting confusing, because it's like if some people were talking and they had the camera like this, and then suddenly they jumped to this side and did this. It's confusing because your brain is no longer able to follow, what do they call it? Like the spatial something is what I'm trying to think of. So you always want to make sure that if there's a conversation between the two people or two groups, that you try to maintain that you don't cross that line. So that's why, like here, for all these different camera bits, I have the camera stay on that side. I get close, like right here, but I never really cross that line. So yeah, Golem's from Lord of the Rings is actually a good example of utilizing the 180 rule in a situation that doesn't have it. So like Golem was the same person, so they were able to have a conversation or make it feel like he was like having a conversation with another person by technically violating the 180 rule to create a fake 180, I guess. So like they could have it where he was speaking to himself like this, and then swap to the other side, and it suddenly felt like he was speaking to somebody else. And I believe, if I remember right, they actually use the camera angle to determine the position of power. So like when it's the weaker version, they keep the camera low or keep the camera high to show like you're towering over somebody, so they're weaker than you. And when somebody is in a position of power, you go from below like they are towering over you. So like having a conversation with himself, you could say that this is the position of power, and then like the position of submission. So actually, I got Golem is actually, I think this Golem is an excellent example because it's actually showing how using such works in a situation that is not normal. So yeah, that's perfect. But yeah, there's if you actually look up, I had to actually look it up earlier for somebody, and if you actually just look up 180 rule, the first thing that comes up is a picture that shows exactly what this means. Yes, no. So, but the other thing that I ran into a situation with this in was, let's say that there's another, and this isn't, I don't know, this wasn't like a extension of the rule or anything, but when I was playing with it, I felt like it was kind of an exception that worked. So say that you have two people in a conversation, or two groups. So like say that this is going on. So the conversation would still be like this between the two groups, but if you were to suddenly swap to an internal conversation between these two, they have a line still, but technically between these two, this is still a valid position within their 180 space. But technically, by doing such, I'd be violating that line. But the thing is that I'm no longer paying attention from that angle. So like, if this was a conversation on this side, going back and forth, I could swap to something like this for their conversation, as long as when I go back to this conversation that I stay back on that side. So it's like but if this person was shown at all, like, I wouldn't do it like this where they're having a conversation like this then, between themselves. You don't want to show that person, because look, he'd look very sad. Very sad chronicle. But if I stayed on this side, like if this was the side of the conversation and they were talking in between each other, and I like this, like whispering to it, then it would work as long as I don't swap or I keep that. But it's like this weird. It's like I've mentioned before that a lot of these are guidelines. So there's going to be situations that it may not always be that rule is you have to do it. In this situation, it might actually work to have them talk back and forth as if these two are together against one, and then actually break the 180 and have a conversation from this side. So I don't know, it's a little bit more vague on that. So, but I did run into a situation regarding that, and it was and it actually got me thinking as to, well, technically I'm crossing that line, but is that okay? So anyways, bye, Rainbow. I wish there was a mod that every time you go to delete a model, it would pop up with a sad face and then disappear. Actually, that'd be kind of depressing. Like, no, undo, come back. I can't take the sad face. Come back, see the happy tones. Okay, now you're good. Going. So anyways, okay, that was off topic bit. But anyways, what that was essentially just, or what all that was leading to was, I have to stay between here and technically here, because I don't want to like imply showing the other person. So I have to stay from here to here, and only rotating counterclockwise. So I'm just limiting my options a lot. So it means that if I want to start anything, it's probably going to be from here to here, or from this point to this point, moving to this point or this point. If you know the limits to work within, it makes it easier to figure out what to do. So let me just double check here. So again, I did a low shot and kind of the mid to full side shot, meaning that the only ones I haven't done yet are straight on, but that's kind of similar to what happens here. I just want to make sure it's kept changing, that it's not just very similar shots that it's bumping between. Top down I don't want to really do, because top down again puts the subject in a submissive position, and I don't want to do that. All these right now have been where this gives Lyra a feeling of empowerment, but if I went from above, that would instead be putting her in a position of submission, and I don't like that. So it's not going to give the impression that I wanted. Crackle here, but Lee stays in that position the whole time. I just want to make sure I'm not copying this. I mean, I could. Okay, that would be again copying. So, okay, let me get back to Crackle here. So, That's just his head. I think that's what's confusing me, is that this shot alone was different because it was just a zoom in of the face. These two shots could be considered the very similar motions, just different zooms. So I could do a different zoom of the same motion. That actually might be a good way to transition these two. Right, let me try this. That might work. I think I'm gonna redo that though. What I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give a slow motion zoom into the face, just very slow. A little faster than that. That'll work. Just so it's consistent across the board. And then I'm gonna have this spot jump. I think I'm gonna have to maintain a farther zoom out for this shot. I think that'll work. What I want to do too is I'm going to change the perspective a little bit on this one. color for once it hits here. So it's doing a zoom in, so I'm going to do a little bit extra. Yep, that's good. It's just making it still feel like it's moving correctly. Okay, does a dip work? I don't think it's going to. Nope. Even if it's just a teeny bit. See, that actually I think can work. Let's leave it as it is, so you guys aren't hearing Bonnie. It's like Lyra's bark. Let's keep that. But she's not even, I don't have her in position either. She's not anything right now. Okay, technically the aperture here would be lower. Lyra's going. She's entering another dimension. If I'm back to just work on this section, I should narrow this down and actually go to the right map. I wasn't doing that. Yeah, I haven't done that part yet. I was just trying to figure out camera. None of her emotions are really set. I just did the eyebrows because it was really weird without the having all the others with the eyebrows and that one not. And like these two, I normally don't add this stuff until later, but I would probably add like some kind of... This is difficult to figure out whether or not to add it or not because of how much it can change things. Because like I could add jitter to this shot and then have a... But while it creates a nice effect, it creates the problem of motion blur. So, I mean, I could do it here too. So here I could actually start it earlier because it's going with the other one. But you're adding in a lot of extra motion blur potentially. But I don't like doing that stuff because I'm destroying the camera. Like the camera has motion, and if I add the jitter to it, it's not undoable without having to smooth out the actual normal camera motions. So because of that, I'll either have the jitter added at the very, very end, or I would have another camera created and then I would rename the original one Smooth or something like that, so that I know that that is the one that's the same as the camera is now, but without all the shakiness. So either that, or you could attach the camera to another model and shake the model. Therefore the camera stays the same, but the model is doing the shaking for it, but then you lose your ability to free fly, and sometimes that's more of a detriment. So I need a better face for when it randomly switches to this for now. No. I guess. looks like zoomed out. No. That's creepy. I like it just like this. I thought her hair was disappearing. For some reason, I don't know why, but this kind of looks like Jeff Sessions, but okay. Like this right here. That's good. So now we have very, very epic battle. See, like that could actually work. We'll just we could just end it like that. It's funny because I think to us because we see it coming, but I think it was out of context. It would just be more of a confusing bit. It wouldn't be understood. It's pretty good. Intermission. No, this there. Nope, I just wanted something goofy to put there at least until I got to that part, because it might be a little bit before I kind of get that part figured out. I originally was thinking about making custom audio for it, but I kind of decided against that, and I'm probably just going to use the one right from the show. But I don't think I'll have issues with using it because there's other people that have uploaded it. So this is really creepy to just have looking at me the whole time. It's like one giant eyeball. I just can't decide which side of the head to be on. It's like oh, I want to go back. Oh, I gotta do it this way. No, not that one. Horn. It's the face of many stories. Some of the one's pretty good with that too. Actually, let's look at the top. Oh no, that was to fix it. All right. It's like a caterpillar or something. Okay. You want to wallpaper this? Like, literally. It's... Well, I guess it's light rest, so I can see why you would want to. I'm just fucking around. Trying to get the more defined creepy smile. Whenever they ruins it. I'm making glorious Lyra. Throws it off a little bit. The thing I want to see is that the aperture is put super high. Whoa, not that high. Holy crap. It works from any angle, really. Well, that does have a aperture in it, but I don't know what I'm doing. Let's go. See, this is one of those ones where you make it a video wallpaper, but you do not move it at all. Like, you keep it almost exactly the same, except for you just slowly open the mouth. Oh, that's Please. What is this? What's I was gonna do? Oh. No, not model. Trying to remember if this is one that works or not. Oh, it does. color. That would be better. This was the other one. There we go. You go. I don't know. I just grabbed it from Dota. Dota has some pretty nice fire effects. Yeah, I'll at least post this on Twitter for you. Actually, I'm going to decrease... I think I'm going to decrease the aperture just a teeny bit. Yeah, it kind of gets rid of some of the surrealism that makes it fucked up, so I think I'm going to keep it. One thing I might add is something that at least blended so that these lines aren't so strong. So I'm going to copy these, paste. We're going to just move this around. So it's about there. Drop the intensity quite a bit. We're going to raise it up so that it's flat with the nose. Okay, and then we're going to do the same with this one. Did I delete by accident? Yes, did. There's too much crap going on in this picture. So we'll say that's about the same. And I want to get the intensity of this one. Might not like it so much just because it does get rid of some of the directions from some of the, or the feelings of depth. I might, if I put it down lower, does that work? It's not really. Yeah, it kind of gets rid of some of the creepiness of it. Let's keep it like that. Actually, wait. This might actually work if I put the brightness way down. Yeah, it helps give a little bit then. That is fine. So wait. We need utmost quality for Lyra pick. 64 is a little lower than I want. Pictures are one of those that it needs to think. Oh, I didn't freeze it. I did save it just before doing that other light thing though. Oh, good. gonna call this just for now. Okay, and then we need to F it up a bit more. Yes, follow your dreams. The black strip, oh yeah, the black strip was, the way I had the lights done was, it was set to such a way that it was perfectly aimed and to where the lighting was, it made it feel like a black strip because it wasn't giving the definition for the nose. That's why I didn't like it. Well, the main thing is you can easily clean something like this up. Not even for, well, editing wise, I can do that definitely, but like vibrance here could definitely make a big difference. Using my number 45. Give I don't want to go too much darker, but I can probably go a little lighter. Like that. Let's see, okay, and now we're going to grab new layer. This, I want to put it, I want to have a vignette, but I want to have it very, very strong to the edges, I believe. So, yeah, mount, darken, but then put the midpoint right up towards the corners. I always do this backwards. Oh, I did it right. Yeah, because I didn't want to have it crossing into the fire bits. And what was the other thing I wanted? Oh, so we want to clean this up a little bit. So, hold on, I need to move like a little bit. There we go. So we need to make this, we need to make it pretty. So first we got to zoom in. Oh, too much. This is 15, okay. So we just gotta clean up some of these edges because we need layer to be perfect. Actually, I think it breaks some of the immersion considering how many errors the textures have here. Clean this up. I don't know why, but sometimes my thing does it where every time I go to do anything with the changing the size, it has a bing. Whatever. I'm not gonna bother with it. Alright, so I'm just getting rid of some of these edges that normally are awkward because they're sharp. Like right here you can see just a sharp little edge. I'm just going to push it in a little bit so that it's not feeling so sharp to the edge. I don't want that. I want it to feel natural. And then I feel like this could probably use a little bit more red to it. It's like I have the red in there, and then when I take it off, I can see the green again for a little bit. I almost think that might be too much, just because then it's not Lyra anymore. And that, because I mean, this is such a beautiful image. I need to make sure that I get some nice smoothing on it. Chris, nice little effect. Okay, I think we have a finished image. Is that good? I think it's pretty. There, I straightened out the nose a little bit. You approve? Okay, it's good. It's like eating my soul. This is only 720 too, so it's not even like it's like super high quality. We're doing JPEG because that's highest quality of everything. With JPEG with 7 HUDs because it makes sense, I guess. Okay. See? He's got the face that everybody else should have. What the hell was that? Oh, can I zoom in on this? No, I can't. Oh, I thought maybe I could use snippets to make spoofs. But I guess not. Alright. Oh, you went did it too. See, Fluttershy at least looks like she's just exceptionally excited and just trying to hold it back, but this, I don't know. Why is this open? Oh, wait. Let me post on the Twitters. Oh, so if you want to see the difference in the editing between the two, so this is before and after. So I cleaned up some of these editors, really brought out the colors and got them to pop, cleaned out some of the nose lines. Kind of created a darker shadow to it. The little preview picture is pretty funny too. What should we make the tweets say? I'm trying. I think I have some. We're using joke based on the rating for the show. Well, like, because they have the saying of no, I do the zero context thing a lot, so I'm gonna try some of those. Of the rated T for teen kind of thing. But what's the rated G, or what would it be for kids? What's the rating for that? Because that's what this, because whatever the show is, which would be considered G, I would think. What is a kid's rating? Because T for teen just has a ring to it. Yeah, that rated E for everyone. That's what it is. That was perfect. I don't know. I think that works. Then your hashtag BFF. No. No, yeah, because E for everyone is a game rating, and it has that ring to it. Rated G, it doesn't have a ring you could do with it. There, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I was like that. So I can't think of a hashtag that would be funny to put on there. But I'll just do that. Okay. Let's call it good. Okay, we're good. It's even funnier just scrolling through timeline. Oops, wrong button. That's gonna be meta. Okay, Aggie. Alright. Everywhere. Animated, it's even better. Ignore the lighting flickering, it's just because of the high radius. Or actually, I'm gonna crack over that shot. Though I think I'm gonna have to remake that shot because I've done some strange modifications to it. So, alright, well, there you go. Well, actually, in here, if you want a non... call it... Put it in here. Here, I'll put that on my Dropbox, so if you want the download for it, that's not the quality of crap. That was Lyra, so you think it'd be easy to see? There it is. Okay, it's easier to find in there. Anyways, with that, I'm going to be ending a stream an hour early again. I might be doing that for a bit just because I have a lot of other stuff I can't do on a stream that I'm working on multiple hours a night. And burning out from a 4-hour stream makes it so that I don't get any more work done. And I'm got a lot to do. So until I get some of this stuff done, I might be cutting it a little earlier here and there. So... anyways, you got a beautiful picture from it, so you should be happy about that. It's gorgeous. You have waifu material right there. That's totally. So, all right. Majority is still over there. That's weird. So, all right. I will see you guys later. I will be streaming again on Eater E for evil. Okay. I'll be back Tuesday streaming again too, so no worries on that. So, all right. Oh yeah, and have. That's perfect. I want to make sure this is saved because that is a very important face. Have Kitty, which is better than that face. And we'll go from there. So, alright, yep, bye-bye. See y'all later. Have a good weekend and whatever you're doing. Okay.